Hi everyone, welcome to part 3. Okay, I've just played knight takes e4 and we just saw the complications, some of the complications that can arise when he plays queen c7 here, which is the move that allows white to retain the advantage in this situation. But what he played instead of queen c7 was queen e3, which is defending against that threat I mentioned before of bishop e2, winning a pawn on f3 and cracking open a route to his king with a good advantage for black. And he was probably hoping to consolidate now and exploit the advantage in being the exchange up, but after this move, queen e3, black is already better and has an easy strategy to work with, as I mentioned earlier, closing the c-file for these rooks and then marching the central pawns up the board. First I took on g3, and after f takes g3, I have connected passed pawns and the initiative after d5, because I'm threatening bishop c5, winning back the material with interest. And in order to prevent against this, he played b4. And this gives me a nice outpost on c4, first for my knight c4, and after bishop takes c4 with my bishop. And of course not d takes c4, or this would give him powerful play down the d file. And this way all of the files stay closed and his rooks have far less activity. And now came an inaccuracy with queen e5, as the exchange of queens definitely favours me. Presumably his thinking was that as he was the exchange up, he should win the endgame easily. In actual fact, it's very hard for him to get any play in this position after the queens come off. Better here was g4, where he at least does some damage to my pawn structure after queen h6, which is the best move. Now queen takes h6, g takes h6, and best play goes knight e5 with objective equality, although my center pawns will still be difficult to stop. So queen e5. So I was happy to trade queens. And after knight takes e5, I play b5, so that if he takes on c4, I have 3 connected passed pawns, so this really isn't an option for him. And instead he played knight c6, which forces rook d7, and he wins my better bishop, considering my pawns, with knight takes e7. And after rook takes e7, I was hopeful about my prospects for winning. He got his king involved with king f2, and I played f6, just making sure there's no back rank threats, and beginning the process of putting my pawns on dark squares to improve the mobility of my bishop, whilst making a path for my king to enter the game. He carried on with g4, and I played king f7, he played g5, and I played e5, because there's no need to wait now. He can't get into my position, because there's no open files. And so there's no danger in advancing now. I can just move my king and my pieces up and gradually crush him from the center. I was surprised that he didn't try to enter down the queen side by playing things like a4 and trying to open these files here. In post-mortem he said he thought that there probably wouldn't be enough time to generate the necessary counterplay in order to stop my pawns, and that's why he didn't go for that plan. And here he got his king closer to the center with king e3, and I did the same with king e6, and now black's advantage is starting to grow, and it's at nearly 2 pawns now overall in the position, especially after rook d2 and rook c7, which I played with tactical ideas in mind. Now if he ever moves his king onto a light square, I can check him with my bishop and win the rook at c1. So he played rook dc2, which allows me to play d4 check with tempo, and the movement of his king is starting to get limited now due to the tactical threats of the position. For example, if king e4, then g6 followed up with f5 is strong, and he played one of the better moves, king d2. So now I pushed again and gained more space with e4, and now his position is unsalvageable. He tried rook e1, but now I've got e3 check, where again he has to be careful about tactics involving the winning of his rook if he moves his king to a light square. Essentially his only move is to c1. But after I played king d5, he stopped the clocks. saying there was no way to keep me out of his position, and no way to stop these pawns marching down the board. So needless to say, I was very happy with this win. Although, as I said, in hindsight, the exchange sacrifice was unnecessary, and it's not generally my style of play to play that way. I like the gradual build-up of advantages, and he gambled a pawn. I could have worn him down and won the endgame, and I would have been happier to win that way. But I'm not saying I was displeased with this win. They all count, and it was like I said earlier, it was a creative way to continue, and so there you have it anyway. And Jack even said in post-mortem how he figured that the exchange sacrifice didn't favour me at the time, but he was quick to add that in the long run it certainly did. But it was lucky for me that he didn't play queen c7, but that's just chess, I suppose. So we've got a bit of time left anyway. We may as well have a replay with the threatened squares on. So yeah, I've gone back to the Sicilian now, despite everything I said about it. Everyone knowing the theory and everything like that. When you analyze it, it definitely is the best defense for black. There's no two ways about it. And with the French, you do have to put up with being cramped for a long time before you get any play, generally speaking. And most players, myself included, thrive on activity, and you're guaranteed that in the Sicilian. So I think it's what I'm going to be using against d4 for the foreseeable future anyway. And I was happy to see the Smith-Morra gambit, because like I said, I know those lines pretty well, and the queen e2 and rook d1 is sort of what you expect in that. And I liked the queen a5. I thought that was a good way to go into the middle game, and a good organization for my pieces. And the exchange sack, which wasn't completely sound, much to my irritation, but only if he played queen c7, as you saw there. So, and I was surprised he didn't play that, because he's known to be an aggressive player, and it was definitely the most aggressive continuation. But now it's only 6 moves later, and this position is, I think it must be pretty much a guaranteed win for black. I can't see any way for him to stop the advance of those pawns. There's a famous game that made a big impression on me when I first started studying chess. It's a game that Tigran Petrosian played against Vlatistimil Hort, where he sacrificed the exchange in a French defense, and he got a similar, although much more dynamic and certainly a lot more impressive, central pawn roller going, and he was the exchange down. But it's such a brilliant game. I think it was the first video I ever did on YouTube featured that game, so if you want to see it, then check back and you'll see it. It's one of my favorites of all time. So that's it. Anyway, in any case, my sacrifice wasn't completely sound, but it was still a very, very enjoyable game to play, and I hope you enjoyed the analysis. Please leave any comments or thoughts. Thanks very much.